Hi, everybody. Good morning again. Welcome back to Esther. We're going to start in Esther 4, where we ended in the last session, when Esther had just received the news that she is going to have to go before the king and ask him to save her people. So the first thing she does is ask Mordecai to prepare or tell everybody, let's fast and pray. She wants God to be on their side. She wants to know the people are ready. She's going to fast and pray. Her maids around her are going to fast and pray. She is going to have a time, 3 days of repentance and going before the Lord before she does this. But I love her response at the very end of chapter 4, the very last verse. She says, "When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I die, I die." She has a lot of courage. Yes, she is giving her plans to the Lord, but then she has to step out in faith. And when she steps out, she knows there's a good chance the king will have her killed, because that is the edict. If you go to the king without him calling you, the penalty is death, unless he puts out his golden scepter to you and says you may come in. So Esther goes to the king, and this is verse 1 of chapter 5. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out to her the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched the tip of his scepter. Such a simple little paragraph, but let's say this. First of all, it was no coincidence that she chose the right time when he was in a good mood. Second of all, he happened to be sitting facing the hall and he could see her. Third of all, she got all dressed up. I mean, God is using all of these things and probably making the king's heart soft for Esther, so that when he looks at her, he says, "Oh, Esther's here. I'd like to talk to her." And he holds out the golden scepter. Then the king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What's your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be given you." He really, really, really thinks a lot of her, and he'll give her half the kingdom, he says. Of course, remember, he's very rash. "If it pleases the king," replied Esther, "let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him." So in verse 4, we see that she's not going to ask him right now. I'm wondering, why doesn't she just say it, get on with it? But no, she wants Haman there too. So she says, "Come to my area, my sitting area, and I'm going to have a big banquet, and you come and bring Haman with you." So, "Bring Haman at once," the king said, "so that we may do what Esther asks." So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. As they were drinking wine, the king again asked Esther, "Now, what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be granted." So he asks her again, and he said, "I'll give you just about anything. Why don't you let me know what this is all about?" Here is where I get frustrated, where I think Esther should blurt it out and tell him what she wants. But Esther has a different plan, and so here's what she says. Esther replied, "My petition and my request is this. If the king regards me with favor and it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for them, and then I will answer the king's question." So she's saying, come again tomorrow. We're going to have another banquet. Haman's invited. And at that point, I promise I'll tell you what I want. Why she had to have a second banquet, I don't know. Maybe she's getting something ready. Maybe she doesn't know what to say. I don't know. All I know is she's inviting them back a second time. So Haman, he's feeling pretty good about this. He goes, "Hey, you know what? I was invited to this little banquet just for the king and the queen and me. I'm pretty important." So Haman, this is verse 9, went out that day happy and in high spirits. But when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate and observed that he neither rose nor showed fear in his presence, he was filled with rage against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home. He is ticked. It spoiled his beautiful day. He thought he was something, and then he came out to the gate, and Mordecai still would not show him respect. So he calls together his friends and his wife. Haman said, calling together his friends and Zeresh his wife, Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth, his many sons, all the ways the king had honored him, and how he had elevated him above all the other nobles and officials. And that's not all, Haman added. I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to the banquet she gave. And she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting in the king's gate. This was just a little stone in his shoe. You know, he had a great day, and here is Mordecai still refusing to stand and worship him or bow down and show him reverence. And it just niggles at him. It just drives him crazy. His pride is really getting in the way now. So listen to his wife and his friends. They come up with quite a little plan. His wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, have a pole set up, reaching to a height of 50 cubits, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go with the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself. This suggestion delighted Haman, and he had the pole set up. Now, this is when I'm really frustrated with Esther. You went into the king when he was in his throne room. You didn't tell him. You had a banquet. Haman was right there. You didn't tell him. And now, Esther's wasted this time. In my view, she's wasted the time. In God's view, it isn't that way. And maybe in Esther's view. But in my view, I'm frustrated with her. And I feel like if she had told the king the first two times, Mordecai wouldn't have had, or Haman wouldn't have had time to set up these gallows to kill Mordecai. Now Mordecai's going to be killed in the morning. It doesn't matter what Esther does to save her people. Mordecai's death sentence is set for the next day. Things look bleak. What I've noticed throughout the years of studying the scriptures and trying to live my faith, is that very often God's economy, the way that God does things, is the opposite of what we think. So when we think things look the worst, when they're the bleakest, that's when God can work the most. You know, there's so many verses in the Bible that tell us this kind of backwards thing that I keep seeing, this backwards thing. So, for example, 2 Corinthians 12:10, when my power is made perfect in your weakness. So when we're weak, he's strong. That's when God can show the most strength, is when we are the weakest. It's not our strength. We think, I got to get stronger. I got to buckle up and do this. God is saying, in your weakness, that's when I'm strong. Or we think, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But in Matthew 5, Jesus says, no, turn the other cheek. We think it's better to go get things and accumulate wealth and so on. And then Jesus says, no, it's more blessed to give than to receive. It's backwards of what we would think. It's really interesting. So we think life, hold on to life. Life is the most important. But Paul says in, I think it's in Philippians, I think I have that. I might have that here. Let's see if I can have it. Come on, don't give me a hard time. Yeah, Philippians 1:21. Paul says, for me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. So that's the opposite of what we think. We think living is everything, dying, oh dear. He's saying to live is Christ, but to die, I'm going to be in heaven with God. That's gain for me. That's gain. So it's very interesting. So often we look at the opposites. We think one way and God operates the other way, especially in terms of highs and lows. I have a reference here for Job, and I don't think I have looked it up, and I'm going to look it up right now. It's Job 5, verse 11. So let's see what that says. The lowly he sets on high, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. So when you're low, he lifts you up. And then, of course, he gets the glory. So that's the interesting thing that we were talking about yesterday, that when we're low, and God lifts us up, then it's God who gets the glory. There are so many of these in the Bible, so many of these low and high things. Psalm 30 verse 1 is a good one too. I will exalt you, Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths and did not let my enemies gloat over me. Seems like Mordecai could almost sing this song to God, couldn't he? Because God is going to lift him out of the depths, and he's not going to let Haman gloat over him. And that's what Haman wants to do. He wants to put him on that pole, impale him on the pole, or put him on the gallows, and then he's going to gloat, you know. And God says, no, I'm not going to do that. Verse 145:14 says, the Lord upholds all who fall and lifts up all who are bowed down. When we're down, that's when God will do the most miraculous job of lifting us up. And that is what he's going to do with this situation in Mordecai. Even though I'm frustrated with Esther that she had 2 chances to tell the king and get this over with, she's waited. She's having another banquet. Mordecai's death sentence is there. Everything looks down. Watch God lift it up. There is a wonderfully fun song that says this very thing. And I like to sing this a lot of times when I'm kind of down in the dumps, because it's a great song that is fun and it lifts your spirits. So let me find that right now and share it with you. And I hope you will enjoy it as much as I do. Yeah, get down. I get down, he lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. I get down, he lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. In your weakness, he is stronger. In your darkness, he shines through. When you're crying, he's your comfort. When you're all alone, he's carrying you. I get down, he lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. I get down, he lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. 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 He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He get down, he lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. Get down, he lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. He lifts me up, I get down. Oh, every time I get down, he lifts me up. Tomorrow we're going to see exactly how Mordecai is lifted up from this dark, bleak place that Haman has put him in, where tomorrow morning he's supposed to be on the gallows. So we will see how we're down and God lifts us up. So if you're down today, open up your heart and let God lift you up. Have a great day. Bye-bye.